Okay, let me get into my dev problem of the week.
Hey.
This is cool now that my camera's here because I can look a lot closer to
Mhm.
where we're working,
Yeah.
which
Kira
is
have a
really
new
good.
camera.
Yay! Hello.
Okay, are we live here? We're live there. Good. We're here. Good. So we're broadcasting to the world about design and stuff. It's Friday for us. Let's see if we will be more, I don't know, creative and loose.
Well, I've already had a couple beers, so.
A couple. Okay.
I'm so kidding. It's only 10 a.m. here, so.
And maybe microdosing. I don't know.
Maybe microdosing cheesies. Just getting things primed, for Friday vibes, weekend vibes.
This. Okay, so. Have you used any new software lately?
Have I used any new software lately? Not really. I got brought back into Microsoft Teams recently.
Oh?
Because we were collaborating. So,
it's true.
Got the old login loop problem come up again, which is always fun. But no, not used anything new. I'm just like getting stuck in my ways. How about you, Benoît? Have you done any?
I'm using Wavebox. It's all in one place for apps and browsing, and I love customizing my workplace and
like
love
Shift.
Yeah, it's a
kind of.
Yeah, it's a big shift.
No.
What? Big shift?
There's a There's a product called Shift. It's actually Victoria owned.
Shift.
Yeah.
What it is.
And it holds. It kind of like it. It's like a container for holding like different accounts. Different like.
Try Shift. It's a little bit like that. Exactly. It's a Wavebox. It's a little bit different, but yeah, I feel like there's a new trend here, and it's not. I don't dislike it at all. I'm creating spaces for different projects. I'm opening them, and everything is ready. All the tabs and different apps. Kind of like this. I kind of like this. Anyway.
Yeah, it's like. Kind of managing so many browser windows in this kind of haphazard way, and they open randomly. Like, you don't have that sense of containment in your workflow unless you're very process oriented and you're disciplined enough.
Exactly.
To actually make that a good experience for yourself. But most of us are lazy bums, or can't be bothered, whatever.
I do love, I do love doing productivity. How do you say that?
Hacks?
No, not hacks. Procrastination productivity, meaning.
Oh, yes.
You just want to procrastinate somehow, but you do something that will help your productivity, like, cleaning your stuff, printing a space where you can put your pencil, creating the bookmarks, all this. It's my transition kind of drug between two projects. So if I'm bored somehow, I'll maybe I need to procrastinate instead of scrolling. I'll try to, make something more productive.
Well, that's good because it tricks you into it because you get a sense of like accomplishment. Oh, I did something. And then
it's putting you in the right mindset of work.
So then you trick yourself into it. It's good.
Talking about I don't know. I'm trying to link this to the
have a good segue.
I had a good segue. I don't have any good segue.
Speaking of working on stuff you're supposed to work on.
That's better. We have Jason who sent something a year ago, but it's I thought it could be an easy problem.
Okay.
But I just, slowly talk about it and dreamed about it and say, oh, no, could be more complicated than we think. So the
Okay.
problem that Jason proposes, or the title is show feedback messages in the editable data grid. Just that, we can be here for a couple of hours. Just so, any advice on how best to display success error messages while editing fields in an inline data grid? I've got an editable grid where records are saved and validations form. So that's the twist. And as the cell exit or blurred, whatever. So when it's done, if there's an error or an error message that should be displayed, and a saved message should be shown in the event of a successful saved. Well, you're editing something and there's a problem, or you need a feedback to say, well, good job, all good.
Yeah.
I'm looking for some things that will inform without overwhelming the user with feedback messages. Oh, thank you, Jason. That's good.
100%.
Imagine having toast every time you're editing something.
Or a modal window. Or maybe just like sparkles coming in. Every time.
Yeah, sparkles would be even better than toast. Yeah. So what's the problem you think? What do you think is the problem? So again, we don't have any information about the user. Jason would love to say, what kind of user, what kind of table, anything about what it is. Yes. But what do you think it is? What the problem is? So as a user at that table,
I don't know. I'm making up something.
We have to make up.
Data entry specialist. I mean, that's just straight up not true. But
That's
admin. I don't know. I mean, someone who's allowed to do stuff on the system. That's all that we really know about them.
That's all we know. One thing I'm sure is that the goal of a user is not to be overwhelmed by, not to be, the goal is not to have any kind of validation, I think. That's not the goal.
Are you kidding me? People literally love check marks so much. That's a validation, like, I'm so good. I'm really well behaved.
Oh, okay. But the goal is not to get validation, it's to get a work job and make sure that someone is saying you did a good job in general, but not be filled with validation every time I'm inputting something. I think the problem is it can be
more
overwhelming. Reassurance, exactly. What I feel that Jason is asking is, do you want me to reassure the user at every step of the way? And every time I'm exiting an input field in an inline table, should I say good job? Well, good job.
But Jason's saying that validation is actually happening. So there's a system status that's much more than just like, you entered like good participation medal, right?
Yeah. Let's not gamify it on the table yet.
Not yet. That's for tomorrow.
But I see what you mean. But now it's maybe how much and the level of it and where to put it and timing of it also.
Yes, absolutely.
That's our obstacles, in fact. But for the user, the goal is to go through the process of entering data with reassurance. There's something about frictions, or it's buzzwords here about how I'm reassured without slowing my process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a little bit lame. I sounded off there, but enterprise software user, I want to be reassured my entries are valid so that I can do my work correctly. So that I can do my work correctly is really lame. And adapt to any issues, right? Like the thing needs to be correct. That's the only reason why we have validation, is to ensure that's the case.
Yeah, correct. Or what's not correct about it.
Yeah. Or fix things.
So it's maybe more exactly fix things, is tell me along the way what I need to fix. It's not tell me, I don't think the main goal is tell me what I did my job right. Tell me where I need to fix it.
I think it's a mix.
It's a mix. So we have
I
to
think it's a mix. I think it's a real system status kind of topic.
What is not accurate? Maybe. What do you think?
I would say do my work correctly, fix what's not accurate. Well, it's like reassured my entries are valid so that I can do my work correctly and fix what is not accurate.
Maybe something like that. That my input are accurate so that I can do my job properly.
But you took out the stuff being wrong too.
Oh, it's true. It's true. Well, if it's accurate, I mean, I fixed something that's wrong or accurate.
True. You're making it. You're taking it to a correct state, right?
Exactly.
Like that's actually what you're doing, and it either turns out that way by what you input originally or by what you subsequently did.
Okay. That's it. I think that's it. I love that our problem is not just about how to display a toast message.
How I make toast really cute.
Yeah. Okay, so what's our any question, assumptions that we have, approach that we would take? Okay, so it's an inline data table.
Do you want to scroll over a little bit?
Oh yeah.
Benoît?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's an inline data table. It's going to be Excel-ish.
Excel-ish.
But it's probably not as open as Excel.
I know what you mean. It's not as modular and flexible. Some columns will have in input field, some other columns will not feel like sometimes. Yeah, it's interesting how Excel, by the way, is giving you feedback when it's wrong. It's intriguing. Is it something we can think about? Maybe think about other experience like this one, like in Excel. So should it be something that we can incorporate in our approach?
Well, I think the very kind of that's definitely going to be what we do, I think, because the thing about Excel is that the actual feedback is so poor. It really lends itself to like power users only, and sometimes undoing things is really difficult to do. Across sheets as well, Google Sheets, like I think it's sort of a spreadsheet thing. You can do a lot of big mistakes real quick.
Oh.
So and I've even been in it where like if you delete a value that was there and you mouse out of it, or you leave focus, there's not, if there needs to be something there, it'll just let you make it blank. You know what I mean? So let you actually, I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is for some of those situations.
It's interesting where we're going because it's a form inside of the table right now. Most of the time, it's a form inside of the table. And when we put, you know, a lot of input fields, it look like Excel. So maybe people will say, oh, it should behave like a spreadsheet experience. When it's not built like that, it's not built as, it's just, it's look like, you know, it's and columns and rows, where it's forms inside a data table when you think about it. And the whole data table is a form where you can submit most of the time in enterprise UX, I would say. Because if they're doing that, is because they need maybe more control over the data and input that. It's not Excel. Excel is something where you build your own product in a way. It's the biggest competitors of every new startups, by the way. Sheets. So we think about Excel because it looks like this, but when you think about it, every cell and every input is being validated with a system, with, you know, a backend process. So it's not exactly the same. I'm just not inputting stuff to organize stuff. I'm putting stuff to have this feedback validation and make a machine, a robot, do something about it. So it's forms inside a data table. So maybe we can think about what would be the mechanism of a classic form inline validation and see how we can incorporate it in it, maybe.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, just it probably, because of the fact that there are so many inputs in here, there's probably a lot of efficiency that is needed within this interaction. So I would imagine, so tabbing and keyboard
Oh,
actions are
well,
probably really important. See where I'm going with
keyboard, yeah, keyboard
tabbing
tabbing order.
order?
So
Yeah.
keyboard is the king here. Keyboard and tabbing and arrows and things like that. Yeah. So
And we think,
efficiency. Yeah.
yeah, so and we're thinking about this in terms of inputs, like behavior that a form would have with validation.
Exactly. It would be interesting to see this project just as one input after the other and not think about the data table just as an input, as a standalone input, and see now if in another table it makes sense. I don't know. And I don't know.
Yeah, we could. I mean, we could totally abstract it just to the inputs to start with, and then slap it in. Yeah, absolutely. Totally. Sounds good.
That means that you have a validation for each input and not for the whole table. That's what I understand, right?
Yeah, each input. Yeah.
There's something about performance that I've seen as a big challenge before, where you have a lot of input, a big data table. So performance in terms of, you know, it's heavy. It's a heavy UI, and there's a lot of, you know, calls that you do. And it has to be instant, you know, it has to be an instant response. So that could be long. So there's maybe a loading aspect on somehow where you're exiting and the system is doing something. It's maybe a bug if it's more than 3-4 seconds, but I kind of need this feedback. So what's happening, you know, when I have like 100, you know, inputs in one data table? There's something here we have to think about that. I'm not sure if it's a small screen experience, right?
Data tables are usually desktop.
Usually. Yeah.
But I think we could probably safely assume, especially if this is like an efficiency-based thing, that
big screens, keyboards.
Big screen, keyboard, tabby tab, cut and paste, doing all the quick things.
Yeah. So we don't have to think about the next step or the previous step. You know, it's validating as we go, as we input stuff. Good. I don't see anything else we can assume with some other question. Do you have any?
No.
It's time to do
I just wrote down the states that we need to consider.
Oh, smart. Empty, field, processing, correct. Processing, correct and correct. Yeah. Maybe suggestion, correct. I would add maybe correction. So it's good, it's bad, or correct it like a format or something that is, or suggestion? No. Am I going too far? Ah, yeah. Thank you. Better. Good. Wireframes and as is. Let's just do a sample input. Ta-da! As is. So what we can do is to create the states right now. What about that?
We're on the same page, buddy.
So we have empty. Okay. Field. Empty. Not placeholder. So value. When you say processing for you, it's when they exiting the input, or the
it's just the loading.
The loading after they
in
filled
progress.
something. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Processing field. So processing.
Let's think about what this could be. I'm just going to say types of data. I'm going to say data set type, just to make it sound nerdy.
Okay. Good. Field.
I have,
What?
I just thought of something. Maybe I shouldn't say it.
Oh, please, now that you no, you have to.
I don't know if they are validating between inputs or on a single input. If that makes sense.
Let's yeah, absolutely.
So
well, the assumption is when they're exiting an input field, they are validating something. So it could be between two inputs or just this input.
Yeah.
So doesn't matter, I think, right now.
Okay.
But yeah, I see your point. Maybe when we, display the error or how to fix it, that's when it will. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the classical thing we do when it's correct is a check.
You can put a thing right in the input.
Really? Yeah, oh, I'm learning something every day. Okay, here. Okay. Right, so that's correct. So processing, we need maybe a loading something.
We can do the same thing.
Yeah. Oh.
Watch this.
Loading. Who's different? Oh. Correct and incorrect with suggestion. But now I think that the real challenge is incorrect because we have to think that is we have to think about the fact that it's in a data grid.
Yeah.
So
yeah, normally my go-to is to just do tiny little baby text under here. The thing is wrong.
This is wrong.
This is my fave. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're not going to necessarily have space to do that.
So the next step is, yeah, absolutely. The next step for me is just to put a tooltip on top of this. That's my go-to also. That's I'll just copy, and the thing is wrong. If you're in another table, that's my go-to.
Yeah.
Is it the good best one? I'm not sure.
Well, how many other options are there? I guess that you could communicate at the end of the row, especially if, or underneath the entire, if you do it list item style, you could do it underneath the entire item. If the problem is between multiple. But it really depends.
It all depends. This helper text that you have with input, if you're adding something, sometimes it's moving the whole layout, making the row thicker, bigger, things like that. It's changing stuff. So that's why in a data table, I kind of want to.
Yeah. Oh, you know what, though? I will say I put a label on each of these, but there is probably a column header that actually handles the label.
So let's remove it. Oh, you'll
Yeah.
remove it. Great.
Oh, sorry.
No. So that's why the helper text is came from forms, classical forms, but in that a table, it's adding noises and changing the layout, making the row bigger. So you have to add more
Well,
margin at the beginning, and now you have to play with truncation when it's big. All of this, um, I would say it's opening a can of worms. I'm not saying it's a good
this
thing.
might be too, though,
I
because
know,
if
I
you have
know,
multiple,
I know.
or if you any batch action, like you could have it so that like these are all blocking the thing above, and then you can't see.
And I hate it's a usability 101 for me is I hate that the user have to click on something to understand what's happening right now or to get information. So a tooltip is the easy way, but now I have to click everywhere. I'm saying this problem, and I'm not,
Yeah.
and I kind of not like it. That's why. So that's why it's kind of good that you're, but now we have to think about the size of it because, if, for example, if the input is just two numbers, you know, that's where
Yeah.
it's starting to be complicated. So is the feedback has to be input by input? No. Can we use this practice of on top of the form saying this input, this input, this input, that error, and have more information on it? Oh, can we use a drawer, for example, or can how can they? Okay, so with an icon, they will be able to scan where's the error. But fixing it now it's a little bit more problematic. If I can, show me just the errors and change them somewhere and apply that. So I would see, show me the error in a drawer or in a model or whatever. Let me fix it with more, a dedicated UI just for the errors. And this did this.
Yeah.
You change that, apply, it's done. That would be another easy way to do that.
I'd really want to use that too if we were talking about batch actions.
Yeah, it's true that
But
it
we're,
fits in
you
one
know,
input after the other.
that's kind of how I would decide because if they are really doing like a manual like kind of thing, then per thing,
Yeah.
right in that localized in that input would be great. If they have some crazy functionality where you select the row and then copy and paste data into it or something like that from a spreadsheet, I don't know if we're like just being weird, or you can like select all and like apply a value to one of the columns or something, then really aggregating those errors and like doing navigation almost with them is really great.
It's true. Sorry, my head was elsewhere now. Sorry. It was about, should we have a checkbox everywhere, a check everywhere, and it's just an error when there's a problem. Sorry, because we kind of need the icon to be able to scan where there's an error. That's I think it's a given.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But now, how we convey, how we give this feedback. So think about an input like there's just one, So, the Lorentz Epsilon can be, this is around because of x and y, and you need to do z, for example. That could happen as a problem. I don't want to hide it in tooltip.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, even if you have a bit more space allocated around the inputs all the time, like, I don't like the growing in height dynamic that can happen. I just make it a fixed height that's just fatter than normal. That's sort of my preference. So, like, that's what I would opt for a bit more than some other choices. And then if it's a really complex error, then have a tooltip. If you could maybe have the best of both worlds where you do have your team, your UX copywriters that you totally have on this team, they will make sure that they lead with a clue about what the error actually is. like spit it out at the beginning part of the sentence before you start truncation.
That's true. That's true. So microcopy here is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just immediate. Yeah. Which is better if you can get it.
I feel it's too easy because
Well, the interesting case, the more interesting case is when we also have the interplay between the two inputs. I think that's when it gets more difficult, much more difficult to convey. I worked on a form that was like entering samples into a lab.
Yeah.
And so there was validation on certain things within that, where you were, looking up, saying it belongs to like this run in the instrument or something like that. And, or will belong to this future run or something like that. And you have to like enter an ID. It's like, no, actually that instrument's full. So you can't add anything in there, or that plate is full or whatever. So I worked on something like that but was that? Yeah. And it did actually have implications because you did like a search type thing. And then that entry that you put in would populate a couple of the other inputs with other IDs and things. And then you'd have to kind of figure out like, but they would be disabled if they were automatically generated. So there was like,
oh, that's kind of complicated.
So it was kind of complicated. Like you didn't have to manually go and like fix every entry because they all flowed from the original one. So that made them incorrect in a bad state, but it was mainly the place that you could control. I think that'd be.
But that's what I'm trying to do in a way. So I mean, if there's a problem, you can fix it, but you don't have to fix it in at this level. If you fix it, maybe you can fix it as a source or know the context of the problem, and you click, you have a model or video.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And then say, okay, I'll tell you why it's a problem because of this dependency and all. You can fix it there if you want to, and then when you apply, you go back, and now it's kind of done. So that would be my go-to things to do because I can keep the context of it below. I would prefer a drawer for me because the editable will just respond and layout wise, and I can have the context here and the table on the side and compare what I need to do. I would prefer that to a model.
Would you do but you'd actually you'd still control the input in the original place, but you'd see higher fidelity information about what's wrong with it in another place?
Higher fidelity and also the ability to correct it.
Okay, so you're not manipulating the original place. You're explaining and allowing the actions to be done in another.
We could do both. I mean, if you're manipulating an input is the same, you can see that both are reacting at the same time. That's possible.
Yeah. Because I could see it being a really organic thing when you need it versus when you don't need it. Like for example, you could just be like, no, these two things don't go together. And you'd be like, oh yeah, okay. Well, all I need to do is just like type in the thing I do know goes with this other thing. But if it's like this ID is wrong or something, and you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna get into a flow of like searching for something, looking something up, confirming that it is matching to this thing. Anything where you need verification or higher levels of interaction would go really well with the drawer.
With a drawer, exactly. Let's just design one quickly, I think, just for fun. Well,
just for fun.
No, our solution is a drawer first, right? I think it's more complex, but it is.
Well, I would say like
I'm not sure now.
Let's get this onto a thing if we can.
Yeah, like you're designing something here. great.
Yeah, I'm
So
just
let's
gonna...
putting it there. Yeah, we have to go back also to tooltip or not tooltip if we have truncation, something like that. But let's talk about it later.
We do, yeah. Let me just grab like a little guy like this. I give about that much space. And then I'm gonna grab this guy.
For people that are watching us right now, do you have any, you think we're going in the right direction? Is it something that that you face often? Feedback in the grid when you have forms? I'm curious. Or we are the only one who just geek around that.
Oh, there's other nerdy birdies out there, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So you're doing that. Okay.
Whatever. I'm just trying to make it look nerdy.
Yeah. That's
But
nerdy.
it is. Oh yeah, and then just like maybe I should have called that label. Oh well. Maybe I will. No, I won't. I'm not doing it. Okay. Now I'm just gonna put little placeholders just to show lots of stuff going on. Okay. All right. So this is my sitch that we got going here. So this one thing is wrong. So you want a little drawer here?
Yeah.
I'll just put it on the side. Oops. I know how to use this. Oh. Well, bam.
So where would you click on it? On the error message? On the input here? Or on the icon? Or
Oh, that's a good question. Because it would be good. I was thinking like icon immediately, but you could have some weirdness with it actually going back into focus.
Well, if you're showing an error for me, it's there. If you click on it, if you make it clickable, that's the context you need. This is wrong, or that thing is wrong here. Can delete it. And
yeah, totally.
Yeah, and then you have this, and you can even it's great. Oh no, and you can even add more, context. And here we could. Okay? So here we can treat it as a classical form now, where you apply or cancel, and now you can use the classic validation of a form. Have error messages that are more complete with more details, way to fix it.
Yeah.
and things like that. That would be that is quite interesting. Quite interesting. I even see if we want to make it, even easier to maybe click on the icon to show it if we don't want any error messages, maybe. And maybe dreaming. I don't.
Yeah. No, that'd
Yeah,
be good.
that could be one, but would be better to try to have a short, meaningful message of why it's wrong. Maybe an example would be bad format. Just bad format is quite
Mm-hmm.
useful, or there's a problem with our validation required, or source invalid, or things like that.
Yeah.
And you click on it, and you can fix it right away if you want to. That's one. And you can apply all the classic inline validation you have in form. And there's a good
Yeah.
best practices out there you can use. What I do when I start typing, do you validate while I'm typing? The answer is no. You wait until you exit and you help, things like that. So you use a classic best practice of
Mm-hmm.
inline validation, and it's all the best practice for forms in general also, in a way, here. So if you can put an error, that would be great. If not, click maybe on the same icon of where you said it's a correct input, and then click on it and display all the context.
Mm-hmm.
Give them a way to be smart about it. And I think it's kind of smart because on complex data tables, there's a lot of dependencies, and the job
Mm-hmm.
of a platform like that is to help you fix it in a smart way, not just to tell you it's wrong.
Exactly.
And even if it's just a small context about why it is, you can do so many things in the drawer. You can train people, you can have facts, you can put tips, whatever, on not to do it again. You can even, ask someone to help you, or even, create a couple of other inputs that will formulate your final, input. For example, if you input this, that, what maybe you need in this input. Yeah, I would love to maybe open this drawer in a new window, a new tab, maybe. So yeah.
Um, and then I was gonna say a crazy one too. Um, like when you have on search where it's like, did you mean blah?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I wonder if
Mm-hmm.
like there's a potential here to be a little bit more intelligent. Because if I've typed in SQL and I just accidentally type in SQQL, like, is there opportunities to just be like, did you mean this thing? And then you click it or something, just really, really quickly, it populates with the alternative that is correct. Um, that could be a really nice thing. Um, and then I was also going to suggest potentially like the click or the interaction where you like search to find things
Mm.
would be a thing that you could use to optimize for that form experience. And
What do
you
you
can make
mean?
that quite intelligent. Um, well, I mean, even a really subtle one is like when you go to select country and you just hit C and then you get to
Oh, okay, sure,
like those sort of more subtle things within
sure,
inputs themselves
sure.
that can make a big, big difference. That's getting a little off topic, but it will help you prevent errors potentially.
Absolutely. I'm adding, yeah, good call. I'm adding that, after exiting, focus on the URL link. So I'm exit, focusing on the URL link. I just have to click enter, and I'll have the drawer, and I can click escape to close the drawer. So keep,
Mm.
the experience, the interaction efficient with a keyboard. Yeah, I think it's good. That's great. I love it.
Yeah, cool.
I love it. You want to synthesize all of this for us?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I will. Let me fire away here. So you can follow me on there if you want. Wonderful. Okay, Jason. Hi, buddy. We tried to help you. So what Jason posted for us is around feedback messages and interactions within a data table or a data grid. So what Jason's wondering about is for a use case where people are editing fields like within a data table, what's the best way to show success, error, etc. within that kind of experience? And so this is the sort of experience where you type in, you tab out, or your mouse exits the input, the system validates or looks to see if what you typed in was correct, and then you get some info back. So the problem statement that we came up with many assumptions as per usual is and as an enterprise software user, I want to be reassured that my inputs are accurate so that I can execute my job properly. Some assumptions and thoughts and kind of approaches that we had here. To start off with, we are assuming that this is based with like UI inputs in like the more classical sense, I guess, rather than like a pure Excel sort of interaction where you can break a lot really fast. So that's an assumption going in. We're kind of treating it like a form inside a table as well. That's how we're thinking about it. The each input needs validation or needs to be represented. So that's another assumption that we had. Probably a lot of efficiency sort of use cases are happening here. So if it's this thing that's happening within a data table itself, there's probably a lot of keyboard use that's happening. So tabbing order and optimizing for keyboard use is what we're assuming would be important here. Rather than saying like make a form, pop in a modal on top of the thing, right? We're not doing that. Performance also needs to be really snappy as well. So we need to have kind of immediate visual feedback that things are clicking into place as they're happening. And then we just mapped out the states that we'll need to represent. So we have an empty state, a filled state, state that's processing or loading, the state where everything went well and it's correct, and then the error state or the incorrect state with a suggestion. So to start off with, we just abstracted it out of the context and mapped out the empty state, filled, processing, correct, and then incorrect with a suggestion. So I'll go into that in a sec. But we just to point out, we basically have really localized feedback happening within the input, and that's really important in this case because we are doing a bunch of very localized actions. So the actually telling the user that the system is working and it's doing something within the input itself is really important to reassure them that their entries aren't being ignored. Same deal with the correct state really communicates that system feedback to people. So we talked a little bit about the error state when things go wrong. We discussed the possibility of really just putting everything into a tooltip, but that can cause some yucky problems like blocking information up and down. If the tooltip's long, you always have to like click on it or hover on it in order to see it. And so because of this focus that we have on efficiency, that's not going to quite work for us. So the trade-off is we're going to have some communication happening underneath the input, and we're going to make each of the list items within the table larger because of that, and that's worth it to us in this case because it's much more immediate. So we looked at a couple of different approaches here. These messages could get long, so we will have to get a tooltip involved at some point potentially, but it's not the default. So we put the whole thing into an actual UI. And so if you want to scroll down, Benoit, a little bit.
Sorry.
We put the whole thing into a UI, and so we have it kind of laid out here. And what we decided on was to kind of bring a lot of best of both worlds, best of all worlds, maybe. So we have the state being represented on the input itself with an icon, as well as some details on what went wrong and why, and potentially how you could fix it. We introduced a drawer component in here, especially in the cases where you have more complexity actually happening with the error. So, like, maybe you need to look up something and verify it's true and blah, blah, blah in order to input the thing correctly. So, we give you opportunity to do that in a more classical form sort of context if required. But you could also just correct it within the input itself quite quickly as well. So we would suggest, if you're going to do an approach like this, definitely make sure that the error message is short and meaningful, to the point at the beginning of the message itself. And basically, yeah, if you're going to take an approach like this, it's really handy for when you got more complex stuff going on. Anything to add, Benoît?
It's kind of good. Kind of good. I hope Jason will love it. We have a lot of problems around that table.
So many problems. Honestly, there are just the million bajillion. It's as vast as the data in the world itself. The data table problems that you have.
Yeah, good. So if you need to table any problems and come back with a fresh perspective, share with us any of your problems, and we'll work on it. So you can contact us on Twitter, subscribe to a newsletter. You have multiple ways to contact us. Please subscribe to the channel. We'll have another problem of the week next week. And again, thank you, Ciara. That was nice.
Thank you, Benoît. That was fabulous.